Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here today to talk about impact and sustainability. What is happening in impact investing? What is impact investing? And why is this something that you should be paying attention to? Well, we've brought the best and the brightest from around the world to tell us just that, and where also the opportunities are if you're looking to either build and or start investing in these areas. And we've been having this as a common theme over the past few weeks here on VCTV as impact and sustainability investing has really started to be a changing or adapting thesis for many of us as investors, but also is playing a more impactful role in many industries. As we've looked at and spoken about supply chains, and we talked a little bit about energy as well yesterday, all of these areas are looking at how impact is playing a role in them. And we're going to get started here in just a moment. But before we do, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you're liking what you hear today, make sure you click that big red subscribe button to be able to tune into all episodes every day, all day of VCTV, as we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you their thoughts and insights on technologies, industries, and different regions, along with their investment thesis and or what they're building as well. And if you'd like to be on a show like today, and this goes for you too, founders and entrepreneurs, there is a virtual stage here at VCTV for you to join us to have the chance to pitch us your company, product, or service, and get real-time feedback, also build foundational relationships with us, and get exposure to our entire live audience. What's a better way to wrap up the year of 2020 and look towards 2021 than doing just that? Reach out to the team and or myself. We'd love to have you on the show. And a big thank you to the team at LATOKEN and to Maria for making VCTV possible every day and bringing us all together here in this beautiful virtual environment that we are every day on VCTV. With that, I'm your host. Let's go ahead and get started. Introduce each and every one of our guests today. Gianpaolo, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro and a little background for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Welcome, everyone. I'm Gianpaolo Parigi. I'm a venture capitalist, investment banker, and serial entrepreneur. I've been in the impact investment space over 20 years, so I think it's longer before the acronym became fashionable. And I've been doing business on emerging markets and frontier countries as well. And so I'd be happy to share some of the insights that I've learned and accumulated through the years on those markets as well. So, Kyle, back to you and to
Wonderful.
Our precious guests.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. I was waiting for that. Yeah, I was waiting for the transition before I jumped in. So thank you for that. And Raghu, welcome back to the show as well. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks to Kyle and VCTV. I'm a business strategy advisor, angel investor, and as well as a serial entrepreneur. I've been focused on impact investments, especially in the last 5 years, in all different areas: green tech, biotech, cybersecurity, and look forward to learning from others and give whatever I can see in terms of the trends that are happening.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raghu. And Mark, it's a pleasure as always to see you. Welcome back here on VCTV. A little intro and a little background for everybody.
Mark Lugo, been doing stuff since I was 16 in the front of my parents' house, building businesses right there in front of my parents' house. So I've been losing and winning most of my life. Lived in Europe, lived in Latin America, invested everywhere. 90% of what I do always has to have a positive impact in the people around me and the people that we're going to affect. So, I mean, I'm kind of impacted built into me. My father's been starting Little League since Kyle knows, since I was a little guy. So, I mean, it's just all natural to me. I don't get caught up with the trends, and I like to see things that help people and not really go in one direction. So that's just a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Fowler.
Hello,
Grandmaster.
Kyle. Actually, you caught me at a really good day because we just announced today that this initiative I've been working on for impact is getting a lot of press. I have the District Attorney of New York, the CEO of that handles missing and exploited children, the task force, Homeland Security, and a 4-term State Department employee, four-term White House State Department employee. We're doing an event. I've actually put the money where the mouth is. My company, IREX, is now focused on bringing children home. So I'm looking at developing partnerships as part of our impact. There's like 460,000 missing children and it's disgusting the kind of stuff that's happened to them. So I've actually, based on a lot of the conversations here, decided to deploy my AI in a way, facial recognition, right, in a positive sense, to find kids. And we're doing it. 45 kids were found in Ohio, 25 kids in the Carolinas. One of the top experts, Amy Storr, who actually works for Homeland Security in that area out of the Miami field office, working to find kids. We're out finding kids to bring them home.
Wow. And let's just start right from there. I mean, everyone else knows you're the grandmaster of artificial intelligence. If they do, they can look it up.
I'm not the grandmaster. I'm just a country boy trying to make a little dent in the universe. Mark and Raghu and all you guys, Kyle, are the grand and Giampaolo. I'm just a country boy. I'm just trying to make my little tiny dent.
I'm just a city boy, man.
I love it. I mean, Gary, talking about impact, what made you want to go down this route? And you also have a $100+ million fund focusing on the underserved and underserved markets as well. I mean, what drew you into this area of impact particularly?
Yeah, because what happened is people were talking about all this facial recognition stuff and all the negative piece. And I said, it isn't all negative. And I started to look at the thing with missing and exploited children. And I started to say, listen, what if we put partnerships together with the top retailers, with a Target, with a Walmart, with a grocery store chain, with truck stops? Imagine how we could make a difference. And let's go out there. What if we can get a consortium from the White House to the CEO of the National Task Force, the top guy in the United States, the District Attorney of New York, right? What if we put it and got Intel to sponsor it? And what if we went out and we did it? We actually put an initiative together. Each one of us on the call can make a difference in humanity. I heard the messages, Kyle, when we were talking, and I said, you're right. I'm not the grand master, but I'm a country boy. I know if it doesn't work here, what if we put it another way? And what if we try to make a little dent? Bringing one kid home is a difference for me. So our goal is to bring them all home.
Gary, I love. I mean, there's heart emojis going around everywhere, but in truth, I mean, that's a very powerful thing and pretty amazing that you and your team have taken the step to make that happen and are doing it as well. And it just shows that the word impact and impact investing means something different for all of us, and it has a place in all of our worlds, not just as investors, but also as human beings and as founders as well. And Mark, with that being said, I want to come to you next. I mean, impact means something very special to you as well. You've got a number of products. You see a lot of different efforts in this area. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the world of impact, from your projects and your companies to what else you're seeing.
I think with the global rise of this extreme capitalism that we have, people are getting left out. And when I say left out, I mean sports, for example, which is something I really know about. Only the rich kids can get the private training, the great facilities, the nice uniforms. How do we get that to the other kids that are not necessarily poor, but geographically they 5th or 8th or 9th generation rural? And rural, for whatever reason, keeps the world moving, but it's poor. They grow all our food. And those are the poor kids that don't have nice fields. They're the poor kids. And I'd say poor culturally, not poor in the sense of not having monetary power. So what I try to do is I try to say, hey, when this industry grows, how do these kids get left out? So when the private school industry started to grow, a lot of kids got left out. So now if I went to the City University of New York and did everything that I was supposed to do there, I couldn't compete in the marketplace against these rich kids at University of Miami. So I applied for a loan from my father and said, send me to University of Miami. You know what I'm saying? I had that option, but some kids don't have that option. So I look at how people are getting left out of industry. So when you have these big CNAs and these what is it, H&M, whatever. I'm a bad retail guy, but all these big stores that are exploiting these little people that clothe us, that feed us, that do all these things. I have to go back into those communities and see how do we help them, because they're going to get left out. They're not even going to be. Some of these kids can't even afford the stuff that they make to sell for $5 at H&M. So there's a lot of issues here with this extreme capitalism, and it's funny because I went from being I've been everything. I started out my life as a socialist. I went to communist, then I became a capitalist, then I became an extreme capitalist. Then I became an individualist where I only cared about myself. And now I'm saying, you know what? We got to go back to caring about a community, not so much social. And I mean, we can't get stuck on the word socialism or communism or whatever. You have to get stuck on the principle. So the principle is right now, my principle is, how do we help the people that are getting left out? Because people are getting left out because of this economic wall that's going up, and people are stuck on one side of that wall, but that wall is the actual wall. The other side is the one that keeps the other side going. So, I mean, I always try to keep that going. And that's the thing that I do with Knit Farm. With Knit Farm is we go and we, like me, my wife, and my son, we go into these little communities in Portugal and France, and we find knitters that make beautiful pieces. I've seen them on Park Avenue and Fifth Avenue for $14,000 in Monaco, And I say, why are these people selling this at $40 when they could probably sell it for $400 and help the community? So we try to get these pieces sold, and then we put money into their pocket that's probably double what they were going to get, or maybe a little bit more. And then we put back into helping other knitters that can't get the supplies because they only sold $40 and the supplies cost $60. You know, it's just like they're caught up in this time zone of like, they think they're still in the 1800s in some of these little towns. Really, I mean, the world just came and left them, and they're still in the 1800s knitting, 2 months to sell something for $40. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. We spend $40 on hamburgers sometimes. So
that is true, and unfortunately, yeah. But I mean, the efforts that you and your family and your teams have put together are hugely impactful to the local communities. And I want to come back to that in just a moment. But Raghu, I want to switch over to you. I mean, we spoke a little bit about this yesterday on VCTV around around clean energy and around med tech and health tech as well, and where impact is playing a role in some of the technologies you're working on. We also talked about data and privacy and how that plays a role. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing and how impact investing is really changing your investment thesis as well, and how you're looking at it.
Sure. Yeah, I want to talk about a little different area because of the pandemic. We are all now aware of the vaccine, right? So, but if you look at it, the infectious diseases space has been like a poor cousin in terms of investment, because the big capital, comes into the US only for the US market, where, you can charge premium, whatever. So, infectious diseases space wasn't getting any investment. One of the companies that I'm advising is in the dengue fever. It's in Southeast Asia, India. It's a huge thing, even in South America. It's one of these things that require you to go into the hospital because you have to get platelet treatment. So it's extremely, don't wish dengue on anybody. It's a very difficult thing. But there was just they have a therapeutic which is in phase 2, but it was very difficult to get funding until now. But because of this pandemic, one of the things is this created awareness about some of these things, that many markets didn't care about. So that is one example where I think if we know what the impact is on the people, then it's not purely about, the cruel capitalism or whatever I think Mark was talking about. It has to be about impact ultimately, because it's about being a contributor, not just a consumer. We can always be a consumer, right? Mm-hmm. So another example is, again, in the vaccine space, is the flu vaccine that all of us take, right? It's only 50% efficacious. And so which means, it's, I don't know what that means, because whether to take it or not is really, and every year the strains change and stuff like that. So one of the other companies that I'm advising is working on a what they call an adjuvant to the flu vaccine that helps increase its efficacy to 90+%. That's a huge difference in terms of if you take the vaccine and you still aren't sure whether you're protected, it's kind of useless in my ways, because just like the testing, right? They test and tell you it's positive, but with 50% result, what does it mean? So we have to really work on improving these technologies so that it actually they mean something. So so that those are some of the areas where I can see, real change being made.
Well, and Gianpaolo, thank you, Raghu. Gianpaolo, I want to come to you next. I mean, what are you seeing from your efforts? You've been investing, you've been looking at this space for some time. We've talked about this on and offline here on VCTV. What is your take on the state of impact and impact investing today?
Well, I think, first maybe we should clear the vocabulary, because, we know that impact investing means different things to different people. I mean, all meant for good. For example, if you want to take my own experience, I deployed what we know as impact investment in emerging markets, but, on some projects that were mostly related to infrastructure. Infrastructure is the baseline, asset that every country has to build upon in order to have a developed economy and a flourishing economy and wealth and social benefits for the population at large. So I decided to tackle that first. And, I had quite an ordeal, but I managed to create deals that had an impact. And I could tell that in retrospective, because I exited those deals successfully. My challenge, when I decided to up the ante against myself, basically, is I wanted to make capital markets compliant deals in emerging markets and in frontier countries. And you probably all know that in emerging markets, getting into relatively cheap deals may be very easy. On the other hand, getting out at the EBITDA multiples that we would expect out of good transaction being built over the years in more advanced economies are hard to come by. And when it's the exit moment, when it's exit time, it's too late to fix the venture so that it becomes market compliant. So you have to do it really from day one before you acquire it, which is what we've been doing. And we have seen the impact on those markets, and the direct, I would say, positive fallout even on the territory and on the population that was working in those areas where we've been investing. So that to me has been, my own angle on impact investing. But I think nowadays, and to go more and beyond my own experience, two drivers, I would think, bring us full speed into the 21st century. One is the fact, and we've been speaking often here on the panels, there's no company in the 21st century that's not going to be a technology company. So this is a first, I would say, well-established fact for now. And COVID finally, I say, dealt a lethal blow to the 20th century, and now every company has to be a technology company. So those who were not prepared have to brace for this. The second is that most investments are geared toward becoming impact investments, whether they border the inclusion business, which is needed and demanded in different parts of the world, even in developed economies, because there are minorities that have been left out, and sometimes even women that are still behind in the race to equal opportunities. But of course, most of the demand for inclusion is on frontier countries and emerging markets. So I think there's now every investment will have to do more and more with impact. Probably what I would look forward is a world where we speak less about the definitions per se and enable more of the modifications and the changes that we need to bring about. Gary, who by no means is a country boy, because if he's a country boy, we all come from Mars. He's a fantastic, talented human being, entrepreneur and successful investor. But he said just yesterday, again, something that should be, I would say, a memento for all of us, that it's good to implement monitoring through technology, but after implementing the monitoring, we have to enable so that we can go to the modification and activate the actions that allow us to make the world a better place to live in. So I think impact investments have a great part in it. In fact, they are the movement that can make the world a better place. And this, without being charity, I want to be very clear. I mean, as an impact investment shouldn't be donations or charity. It's business for good. It has to turn a profit. It has to generate a profit, but profit can be generated not at the expenses of someone else losing it. It can be generated in a situation where there is a growth for all stakeholders and benefits for all stakeholders. And again, we have seen signals already in the last few years that we are shifting from an economy of competition towards an economy of sharing and inclusion at large, which I think, bodes well for the future. And definitely, I mean, we'll all see this.
Great point, Giampaolo. Thank you. Gary, anything to add on to that point of Giampaolo's?
I mean, I first of all, thanks for the kind words. I really, it's appreciated. I'm not deserving of it, but I'm honored and humbled. So thank you. But I mean, this is, we look at, I guess in my life, you go down through and you look for the opportunities to be able to help. I remember when I first went over to Russia back in 1992. And then I started doing the startup stuff, Startup Academy, and started the acceleration and all that. And people said it couldn't be done. And I thought, well, geez, I grew up as in a Reagan era. And I remember all the rhetoric going back, the evil empire, et cetera. Well, these people aren't evil. And there's some very nice, amazing people. Let's figure out how we can work together. And I remember, starting off in 2001, I wrote a paper that with a Stanford PhD on bilateral technology trade. I didn't know I'm a country boy, right? I mean, I wrote it in 2 days. And then I said, they said, could you put an event together? And we did it in 6 weeks. It was the first event between the US and Russia on a major scale like that, because the diplomatic stuff kind of, teetered. And we did it. And then all of a sudden the diplomats start coming out saying, oh, wow, here the business guy, I didn't even know. I was like, this isn't a big deal, just an event. But that's, the thing is, it's like any one of us here, and we all do it, right? Is just take that little step forward. And with the Black community, I told you we're building $100 million fund for that, because I think it's the right thing to do. This thing with missing and exploited children, I've been thinking about that for some time, and just how tragic it is and how awful it is. I remember seeing a picture many years ago of these 2 kids in the back of a van with their, mouth with duct tape over them, and it was disgusting. And we have all these cameras. I thought, hey, listen, we have all these cameras in Walmart and Target and truck stops that aren't, always being used. And we got facial recognition software, and people are talking about negative stuff about it. What if we used it to do something for the good of humanity, to make a little dent, right? Instead of milk cartons, it's now be able to really find them, and then send an alert to the police where they are right away. So anyhow, it's just taking that one step forward. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Patch Adams. Patch Adams is a doctor. There was a movie with Robin Williams. I actually met him. I was going through a divorce, and I met Patch, and he said, you need to give. And I'll never forget that. I never forget it. I went over to Russia with him. We did clowning and all this stuff. And it was incredible to, once you start to give to people, how much you get back, and you don't really expect it, right? You start kindness. I started teaching people English and just having sessions with students and having fun and getting into their lives. And it's amazing how much better you feel. And it's also how much you affect lives. So anyhow, I don't want to digress, but I did it with him, and he really helped me. I really tried to help. And, just let's put we're not here a long period of time on this planet. We need to put a little dent in the universe. And I think all of us here today are trying to put our little dent. And I think with VCTV, right? I hear it, by the way, Kyle, I get so many messages everywhere now. It really is helping people in all walks of life across the planet Earth. It's a really good thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words. You guys do all the work, but Maria and I are just here, but thank you very much. Wow, that a little emotional here. Thank you very much. Mark, to you, anything to add on to Gary's point? I mean, you do a lot of this work as Gary does as well, and you give so much and invest both your time and capital into these different businesses, but also communities as a whole. Anything else to add on?
I think what happens when giving comes from a corporate level, like a Walmart or a Target, I think what they really need to do is, and I've seen this because I've worked with different initiatives with those companies through soccer and Adidas. And I think what they're doing right now is that they're actually getting liaisons from those communities. Because what happens is on a corporate level, you get these quote unquote smart people with PhDs and MBAs, whatever. And I don't downplay that. I mean, most of my friends are on that level and they call me for simple shit because I can understand the simple shit. And the simple shit is don't send shovels as a impact to help people in Costa Rica because it doesn't snow here. We don't need snow shovels in Costa Rica. You know what I mean? And I've seen dumb shit like that happen. And I'm using shit because Gary gets shit done. That's the name of his company. So I can use shit openly and nobody gets mad, right? So I think what's happening now is that these corporate entities with the power to really make an impact, like Gary said, you have cameras in Walmart, you have cameras in Target. If he went to them 20 years ago, they would say, no, you're not touching our equipment. You're not doing anything with us. You're not taking but now it's kind of like, hey, we could do that. We can help that. And we can tell the world in 20 seconds that we found a kid at Target. And the world's going to love us and say, wow, Target's finding kids. And talking about kids, I think it's one of the biggest problems we have in the world that we don't talk about. You know, the United States, 860,000 kids go missing. And I think a good percentage of them are found, but we don't focus on that. So, I mean, the big question to ask is why do they go missing? But I don't want to have people with their face lit up looking for me from Rome. But, that's a joke. But I'm saying the seriousness about it is that we do have the platforms to promote and tell the world whatever we want. Wear a mask, wear a plastic mask, wear gloves, wash your hands. We proved that. We proved that we can get a message out in 2 days to the whole entire world. Why can't we find Betty from Detroit? Or Tommy from Miami? We could use the same platforms. And I think that's where Gary's saying, hey, this is not only to find guys who are shoplifting $2.50 Arm & Hammer baking powder or whatever it is. We're trying to find Betty from Detroit and Tommy from Miami. So I think what really needs to happen is that these initiatives need to set up localized ways of communicating with the guys who have the power. Hey, what do you guys need in Detroit? What do you guys need in Miami? What do you guys need in Costa Rica? What do you guys need in the Bronx? Because that's a big thing that you see in small cities like Costa Rica, where they put, they spend a whole bunch of money putting sidewalks for the blind, and there's not one blind person within 200 or 300 miles from that town. So spend the money. Hey, what do you guys need? We have money for blind people, but we don't have blind people. We have mute people. Okay, so we'll send you guys some sign language teachers or something. You know what I mean? Not send you blind guys. Something that's going to help the blind if you guys don't have any blind people. So I think what happens is when these MBAs and these PhDs sit down, they say, oh, we need to do this because this is trendy. Some towns have a high rate of breast cancer and some of them don't. So don't spend money educating people on breast cancer, or spend less and spend money on the other problem that they have. Not just do it because it's cool and you can put a pink ribbon on your store. Do it because it's actually doing something. Mm-hmm. So I kind of look at I kind of think like Gary, and I mean, I'm not putting myself on Gary's level because that's the $1 billion man on the show all the time. But I like the way he thinks. And I mean, we need more people on that level to think that way, not just people who want to get to that level. And that's the difference. And people, I want to be a billionaire, I'm Billy, all this other stuff. But okay, so you're a billionaire, you're gonna drive down a broken down street from your $1 billion home. Why not make it so that the whole street is nice and you could still be a billionaire like John Paulo said. I said, you got to invest and it's got to work, because if it doesn't work, it falls apart anyway. So you got to treat it like a business, even though it's an impact investment. Mm-hmm. I tell people when we sponsor a bunch of football teams with Fair Play for Kids, and it's usually kids that are very hard to control. You know what I mean? Like they've never been in a league, they've never been in a federated type of football space. So we have to start from zero. We have to get people that say, hey, we're dealing with a kid that's 13 that thinks you punch the other kid every time he fouls you. You don't do that. So we have to start with the before. And I joke about it with them. And I said, okay, you're going to come into this. We have values, we have principles, we have this. In other words, we're going to domesticate you. And we have to domesticate those kids first so they understand the rules. And then at the end of the program, they're the ones that are helping the other kids that came in like them. Mm-hmm. That's it. You got to show them, children see, children do, man. Mm-hmm. That's the way it works. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And Gary, I just saw you unmuted. Did you have something to add on to that?
No. I mean, it's okay. I agree with everything Mark said. It's interesting. Yeah. But listen, I'm not there's one thing about creating billion-dollar companies, another thing being billion-dollar man. I'm just a country boy. Just a country boy.
He keeps throwing that out, guys.
And I'm just a city boy. And I mean, if you go back in history, Gary, the country boys made a difference in this world. And I always tell people, the Heinz family were country people, and they only had tomatoes and feet, and they sold ketchup. When they only had tomatoes, they went out and they did whatever they did to make ketchup. They sold ketchup, and now they're one of the most powerful families in the world, making ketchup. You don't have to change the world. You just have to make something that people need and like. And ketchup is always my example. The Heinz family, the Hunts, they said, hey, we have tomatoes. Let's do something with that. And they're Heinz. You don't laugh at Heinz, right? Gracie Hunt is a friend of mine, and she Kansas City Chiefs, the family and whatever. And I mean, they're humble people. They made their living making ketchup. And then after all the AI and after all the other stuff and the VR and stuff, people are still going to be eating ketchup, brother. Ketchup is never going to go out of style.
No, it's not. The ketchup is amazing. And to that point, it really just goes and re-emphasizes the fact that anyone can make a difference and everyone can have an impact. But to Jean Paulo's point, the word impact and impact investing has very different meanings for everybody. And so you should, as investors, define what it means for you and how you want to make that impact as an investor, but also as an entrepreneur. And Raghu, I want to come to you real quick before we get to closing thoughts here and wrap up, is technology. We talked a little bit about medical, but going into your world of cybersecurity and maybe a few others, how do you see technology, some of the latest technologies of today, whether it be blockchain, quantum computing, as we spoke about a few days ago, but also artificial intelligence and a few others, edge, et cetera. How do these maybe play a role in the future of impact around different industries?
Yeah, I think the core, as everybody has been talking about, is to see how can each one of us make a difference. And I think Gary said he's a country boy, and Mark is saying he's a city boy. I'm saying I'm a citizen of the universe, right? It's just one place. Man. That's it. It's not, this digital divide is what we have to address, from in short, about your cybersecurity, right? So digital divide is, we see the other divide, right? But digital divide is invisible, unfortunately. So we really have to help people who don't even know that they need help. Because if you don't know how to get on to see this whole new world, right? So education, I think, is one critical area for inclusivity, and especially in a lot of the world. We may not see it. I think it's here too. We just don't know some of these things until we really kind of run into it by chance in many cases. So I think cybersecurity is the other side of the coin, where you want to make sure that people don't get hurt. First is you want to use the technology for the right things, like Gary was saying. But on the other side, you want to prevent it from being used for the wrong things. So it's kind of a balance. Technology is there for anybody to use in any way they want. It's all about how can we use it as a contributor. So I'll leave it at that.
Wonderful. And any closing thoughts you'd like to add in terms of impact investing and the future of it here as we look to 2021? And then, of course, where can everyone find you online as well, Raghu?
Sure. You can find me online at Raghu S. Rao on LinkedIn. In terms of technology, I think right now, I think the pandemic is a wake-up call to us because it has shown us where we are lacking, in terms of our focus as a community, in terms of where the inclusivity is one that we have found out. It's about wellness. It's about taking care of the kind of disenfranchised, the old people, the very young people, because that's where charity can go. But we still need to find a business model so we can take everybody along, right? So that's what it is. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Raghu. And Gianpaolo, same to you. Closing thoughts and where can everyone find you?
Yes. You can invest in traditional investments or you can invest in impact investment. At the end of the day, the difference is impact investments will make you feel better because you will have, a wider impact on stakeholders in the territory where you're investing. And it will also probably bring you more business leads and more business generation than traditional investments, no matter what. So consider it carefully. I'm Gianpaolo Parigi, and you can find me on LinkedIn or on email, gianpaoloparigi1@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who are viewing us from the United States.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. Mark, to you, closing thoughts. Where can everyone find you?
MarkLugo.com. Mark Lugo, there's another one that stole the Picasso and the other painting, whatever. That's not me. Just to add to Gianpaolo's, he said something pretty profound. He said, you make, in my words, you make more friends being a good guy than being just a tough guy. And that's basically what he said. And that's true. I mean, I've been in the sports industry for about 20 years and try to reach out to big guys at FIFA, big guys in La Liga, big guys at English Premier League. And the only time they really found out who I was when I decided to represent 150,000 kids that couldn't play as immigrants in Europe. When we filed a lawsuit against FIFA, my son and I, he was 8 years old at the time, and he filed a lawsuit against FIFA to play because they didn't want to give him a license in Barcelona. And now I have friends at Paris Saint-Germain. I have friends all over the world of football. I don't pay to get into football games. I can send kids to New York City Football Club for free. I can do a lot of things now, just trying to help other kids play football. So these guys at these football clubs at very high levels just said, hey, this guy is actually helping us indirectly. He's looking for the next, giving the opportunity to the next little guy anywhere to be the next Messi or the next Maradona, the next Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, whatever, by giving them the opportunity to love soccer. And what I found out through my son was that he, not given the opportunity to play, he started to hate soccer. And that was basically where we built our foundation to say, hey, keep the lovers, let them play. And they'll keep loving soccer, and their kids will love soccer, and their grandkids will love soccer. But if you don't let them play, they're going to hate soccer. And my son was ready to start playing basketball. So marklugo.com, any way I can help, Gary or anybody else on the panel, Raghu or Gianpaolo or Maria or Kyle. I'm gonna help Kyle. We should start the Send Kyle a New Coffee Mug initiative. That's a big one.
Thank you.
Okay, I love you, Kyle, man. My brother, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Thank you. Love you too in return. Happy Thanksgiving as well, and appreciate it. Gary, last but not least, close us out. Closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you?
Yeah, I mean, the most important part about this whole impact thing, from my perspective, is lead with your heart, and everything else will follow. So, this is a great time. We've been through a lot over the last few months. Thanksgiving's a very special Thanksgiving this year for those of us that are here, and let's hope and pray and wish everybody kindness throughout the world, and let's put our own little dent in the universe. My name is Gary Fowler. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, you name it. Love to hear from you. We help companies go global and looking for really cool AI companies. Thanks very much, Kai.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary, Raghu, Mark, Gianpaolo. Thank you all so very much, and for not only the kind words, but the thoughts and insights today as well with our audience. This is a very important topic. We're going to continue this discussion here on VCTV in all areas and industries that we are continuing to cover, but also talking about it as a whole, as it does mean so much to each and every one of us, but also has a different meaning. So again, thank you all for sharing those thoughts. And to your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We are very thankful for you as well. And thank you, Gary, for joining us every day, all day on VCTV. And if you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today. Thank you, Gianpaolo. To join our outstanding guests, thank you, Raghu, and panel. Thank you, Mark, as well. We'd love to have you here on the show to talk about different industries, technologies, and regions around the world. And also, entrepreneurs, there is an opportunity for you here as well on VCTV to join us on the virtual stage to round out your year here on 2020 or look towards 2021 to get the chance to pitch us in real time and get feedback as well on your company, product, or service, along with building foundational relationships with us as investors and founders focused on your area and getting exposure to our live audience. Do reach out to the team and or ourselves, and we'll find the right spot for you. And a huge, enormous thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day and being able to bring all of us together and build this wonderful VCTV family that we have done over the last few months. And thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts and insights. To our audience, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Find me and all of our panelists online 24/7, 365. We'll be back here with more